there. My name is Evelyn Castillo Bach. I'm the Executive Director of Balanced Justice Network based here in South Florida. The offices of State Attorney Katherine Fernandez Rundle, Miami-Dade, is the focus of my attention and my organization's attention. And the reason it's the focus of my attention is because of the level of injustice that goes uncorrected under the leadership of the State Attorney of Miami-Dade, Katherine Fernandez Rundle. Don't take my word for it, okay? You go back and look at the number of problems that unit, that State Attorney Office, led by Katherine Fernandez Rundle, was confronted with and was exposed last year. Miami Herald did an excellent job. There was one case after another case. I'm not going to go through all those cases right now, although I will. I'm actually going to go back to the Miami Herald, and we're going to read excerpts of that together so we can see. But for the purposes of my communication today, it's there. It's there. And what's remarkable is that just about this time last year, the leader of the prosecutors in Miami-Dade, Katherine Fernandez Rundle, she made a big deal of the fact that, okay, I'm going to do something, because she was under a lot of pressure. I mean, it was like an avalanche of problems. You know, they had a prosecutor that had kept a snitch out of prison and keeping him in the jail, where conditions are much better. Trust me, he was there for so many years. It's unbelievable. He was there for years. He was never transferred to do his time in prison. They were using him to listen to what other men were talking about, presumably. And he served as an informant for the prosecutor, specifically for a certain prosecutor who had been with the State Attorney's Office for a long time. Like, we're talking about 10, 15 more years. I mean, read it. It's all there. Anyway, they got caught out. And because it got caught out, all kinds of cases started to unravel. People that killed people, they had to redo stuff. It was a mess. I mean, and there were other things too. I mean, this is the State Attorney's Office has clearly been riddled with prosecutorial misconduct, overreach, unethical conduct, you name it. And they were called out by a defense attorney's organization, a large defense attorney organization. So there was a lot of pressure. Like I said, the Miami Herald did a lot of reporting on this last year. As a consequence of that, Katherine Fernandez Rundle decided that she had to do something real quick, So she recruited, and she hired a man who has a very good reputation for having a lot of integrity. And he dropped what he was doing and came to join her. Actually, he had been with her in previous years, but he had been away for some time. And the plan was that he would, clean house, make sure that her prosecutors acted with integrity and acted ethically, avoid scandals, do the right thing kind of thing. And he was brought in for that purpose. So what's changed? As far as I can see in the public record, anything that's available to anyone who can read or hear or see or know, absolutely nothing has changed. But I have a concrete example of how nothing has changed. Imagine this. Imagine, this is so unbelievable. Imagine allowing a prosecutor who prosecuted a case 23 years ago, okay? A case where there are question marks about the conviction. There are question marks about a number of things in that case. And imagine that all these years later, the case comes back to court because another issue has been exposed. And this defendant wants his freedom. He was sentenced to life. And what does the State Attorney's Office do? Who do they assign to the case? the same prosecutor that was in the trial, who ran the trial, who was part of the trial, because there were two prosecutors. One went on to do other things, but this other prosecutor remained and is now in the high ranks, the senior level management within the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office. This prosecutor, who is a woman, seems to be emotionally engaged in her determination that under no circumstances whatsoever, justice be damned, okay, she is not going anywhere near doing the right thing. And what is the right thing? The right thing is balanced justice. The right thing is recognizing that if the prosecution got away with something in a case, and it's been brought to their attention, that the right thing to do, the ethical thing to do, is to say, okay, we won that, we probably shouldn't have won it. We see now that this was an error, that was an error. And even though the judges won't disagree with us, we know it was an error and we want to correct it because it's the right thing to do. Because in fact, prosecutors, ethical prosecutors, that's what they do. Because they know how the game is played. They know how the system is basically rigged for the most part. Okay, that if a prosecutor goes before the court and says, no, we don't think you should give this person another chance, X, Y, and Z, most of the time, the judge is going to err on the side of agreeing with the prosecution. And I'm going to get into why that is, but that is what it is. That's the reality of things. So, but the prosecutor has the power to go before the court and say, in this case, we would like to go this way rather than the way we were going, and make a correction to the sentence, make a correction to the charges. So I'm talking specifically about a case involving he said, she said, my son, 2001, both of them in their 20s. They met at the hotel where they were both staying. She accompanied my son to his hotel room. She wanted to see his microwave, she says. Okay, fine. So that's what you want to do at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I guess that's what you want to do at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, right? And she turns around and accuses him of non-consensual sex. They offer him a 5-year plea deal. He rejects the 5-year plea deal, goes to trial and loses. He rejects it because he believes innocent people shouldn't take plea deals. And he's sentenced to life. You say, well, how can you be sentenced to life? You're offered 5 years. Exactly. The plea deal tells the story. He does a bunch of years. 10, 15 years go by. And then an attorney realizes, a wonderful appellate attorney by the name of Richard Klug, who's been in the news a lot lately because he's had some pretty high-profile cases. He recognizes that my son was convicted of a life felony that doesn't exist under Florida law. Yeah, I know, incredible, but true. What does the prosecution do? They say, hey, too late, too bad. It's time barred, which means you should have brought it up before. It's procedurally barred, which means, the procedure was that you should have filed before, not now. So too bad, too late. Basically, go die, because in Florida, when you have a life sentence, you die in prison because there is no parole, there's no probation, doesn't exist. Okay. And then, now, within the last year, you find out that, wait a minute, we have a problem with the jury. Especially one juror. There's more than that, but forget about the others. Especially one juror who clearly said no. That he said no because you have to fill out a questionnaire before you get selected, where they ask you this and that, you have this, that happened, the other. It's a process. And he denied things that he should have admitted. And that's one of the reasons why he was picked to serve on the jury. Now it turns out that he lied about substantial stuff, that his father history with his father, involved arrests, other issues. He kept that all a secret. In writing and orally when he was asked, he kept it a secret. And just as before, the prosecution refuses to do the right thing, which is to say, you know what? Things went sideways in this case. I should not have gone sideways. You've already done 23 years, no, 24 years as of this August. Almost a quarter of a century, okay? We offered you 5 years because no prosecutor offers you 5 years because they believe you should die in prison, okay? That should be very obvious to everybody. But you know, they get pissed off. It's what the American Bar Association refers to as the trial penalty. They got angry. You decide to defend your right to a trial, and if you lose, then we're gonna, go for the max and take our chances that we'll win. And they did. The same prosecutor that was there, that prosecuted the case, together with her colleague who has now left a long time ago, she's the one today at a senior level within Katherine Fernandez Rundle's office. And she's the one that is currently now fighting against doing the right thing. I said we were going to talk about conviction integrity units and conviction review units. And what are they? In many courts around the country, the state courts, these units have been formed within the prosecutor's office to look at cases of wrongful conviction or actual innocence. And one of the pillars of conviction integrity units and conviction review units is that it has to be a third party. In other words, you can't have the prosecutors examining their own work and their own convictions. You bring outsiders in, defense attorneys, judge, other people, third parties, removed, have nothing to do with these people, to look at cases and decide were the errors committed here of such a caliber that this imprisonment is wrong or the sentencing is wrong, and the right thing to do is to correct it. That's the purpose. Or were you actually innocent, or you wrongfully convicted? That's the actual role of conviction integrity units and conviction review units. In Miami-Dade, Katherine Fernandez Rundle, she likes to say, oh, I established, project such and such in 2003 and smart justice. But when you read the fine print, you realize, wait a minute, they're the ones internally who that's not the way it works. And this is a perfect example. Where is the integrity? Where is the ethics in allowing this prosecutor, okay, who is responsible for executing the conviction amounting to a life sentence where my son was offered 5 years, and today you put her in the role of deciding whether he should have a second chance or whether his sentence should be corrected or whether there should be a new trial? That's not the way it works. That shows that there is no commitment to integrity. There is no commitment to ethics within the office of Katherine Fernandez Rundle. And I put it on her because she is the leader. Okay? She is the leader. And when you see the mess of things that were exposed last year, okay, which, hey, there's no reason to believe that it's going on right now. Okay, it just hasn't bubbled up to the surface yet because nothing has changed. They brought in one person with a good reputation and apparently no power. Because if he had power, what's going on right now wouldn't be going on right now. And I'm assuming he has enough integrity to know that no, it's not okay for this prosecutor who prosecuted the case a quarter of a century ago to today be continuing to prosecute the case by writing briefs and fighting balanced justice, fighting an ethical conclusion to this case, insisting that he should die in prison in a case where there was no drugs, there was no kidnapping, There was no violence. There were no weapons. There was no trafficking. Yeah, they accused him of kidnapping because the woman said, well, he stood in front of the door and didn't let me out. That's kidnapping. Okay. According to them. But you understand what kidnapping is. I understand what kidnapping is. Okay? She said, oh, but he choked me. We were having sex and I thought I was going to die. I blacked out. But during a hearing before trial for a bond hearing, which he was denied, the judge, I seen the transcript because I read it myself, he said he looked at the photograph of the markings on her neck, and you know what he said? He said, well, that looks to me like her necklace from being out in the sun. You get my drift here, right? We're not talking about black and blue and injury and hospitalization. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a he said, she said. Yeah. I don't believe that Katherine Fernandez Rundle has a clue what a conviction integrity unit looks like or what a conviction review unit is supposed to be. She just plays with words, and it's not right. It needs to stop. My name is Evelyn Castillo Bach. I'm the Executive Director of Balanced Justice Network. Thank you for listening.